Welcome to the Sky Cricket Podcast. It's about 6 or 7 days after the end of the first Test match, a fantastic Test match at Headingley, and 2 or 3 days before the start of the second Test match, which will be at Edgbaston. Hopefully, it will be just as good an occasion. We've all been up to different things. Woody, first of all, how are you? How's the body? What have you been up to?
Good. Training's ramping up now, so off a bit more of a run now. We'll probably talk about him later, but I saw Jofra at Durham when he was playing for Sussex, and I was trying to concentrate and running off about 5 or 6 steps, and he was bowling left arm spin. So my heads are definitely in a different place there, but yeah, it's going well, thanks.
You a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, you said you were 50-50 for the fifth Test. Is that still where it's at?
Yeah, I think so. Just because you look purely at the time, and you're trying to think, can I get enough into my body for that? It's all right to bowl one spell or two spells, but you've got to back it up under the highest pressure against some of the best players. So I still think 50-50, and of course, you know, I could be ready, but I might not be picked. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Being at the Test this week with us at Headingley and watching that must have made you think, come on, not that it speeds up the process, but you must have been thinking, come on, I'm desperate to get back out there.
Yeah, especially somewhere like that. I think Headingley, especially looking at the result, it always produces, or it has recently, great games. And you're thinking, oh, I'd love to be a part of this. I mean, I'm not sure I would have liked the run chase, and the dressing room would have been a bit edgy, but yeah, I definitely miss it, especially when you're there more and you see everything that's going on. It was lovely to be with you guys, but yeah, I do miss playing.
We'll get on to Headingley and your commentary stints in a minute. But Nas, you've been at watching the women who came down to earth with a bump in that opening T20 against India at Trent Bridge, wasn't it? I think
it was at Trent Bridge. It was a real bump they came down to. Once the bar is raised, as it was from the West Indies that they played earlier in the summer and won 6-0, I think it was, and then India, and a strong India side, even though without their captain Harmanpreet Kaur, who's recovering from a blow to the head. Their standards weren't what they were against the West Indies in the departments that caused them areas of concern in the Ashes. So batting was too heavily reliant on Nat Siva-Brunt. The playing of spin, I think they lost 8 wickets to spin at Trent Bridge. The fielding, they dropped Smriti Mandana on 13. Alice Capsey didn't drop Mandana. She just turned around and looked for the ball, and it landed by her right boot. But there were misfields. First ball of the innings was a misfield, and it sort of set the tone in the field. So all the problems that they've had when the bar has been raised and the level and standard of opposition is raised, all those problems came back to haunt them. And just a reminder to Charlotte Edwards and Nat Siva-Brunt that they've still got a lot of work to do.
So next game is Tuesday, Bristol. It's the first actually on Sky because we've got a mixed disability game ahead of that, coming towards the end of that series, ahead of the women's game. So that's a nice first for us on Sky. I couldn't do the women's game because I was gearing up for my big match, my one match of the season in rural
4 minutes, 3.5 minutes into the recording, and we're into your innings. I've seen footage. Honestly, it was.
Listen,
was it the Kookaburra ball?
Forget
because it was horrendous.
Classical batting. Just you can't teach it really, and it's like riding a bike. I've forgotten how easy the game was actually.
You weren't very good. You weren't very good first time round. I saw you smash Dool everywhere. Has Dool lost that yard of pace that he never had in the first place, or what?
He was creaming them down at about 20 miles an hour, I reckon. And he had his lad, Hunter. Hunter must be about 30 now, but his lad was fielding a deep square leg. And the worst sledge of all time, as I was slapping him around, you just heard a plaintive cry from the boundary edge come on, Dad, please, come on.
I did see one shot, and it was your classical back foot punch, the only shot that you ever had. It was that classical back foot punch through the offside. Well played,
you can't teach it. Anyway, there's no sadder sight than a former fast bowler. You'll get there, Woody, in about 30 years' time when they haul you out into some charity game and you're peeling it down at about 30 miles an hour, and they'll be all saying, this guy used to bowl quick. Now, your commentary stint with us, your very first line on Sky Sports is going to go down in immortality because you managed to slip a swear word in.
Yeah, I didn't even realize it till Nasser brought it up with me 2 minutes there, and then you know, when you get that wave on top of you where you can feel yourself going bright red. And then Nas asks me another question, and I'm still thinking about the last one, thinking, what can I say? What can I not say now? Dreading it.
How did you find it? Because when people move from the playing field to the commentary box, the one thing that always takes a bit of getting used to is when you have your earphones in or earplugs in, and you've got voices coming into your head. You've got the director and the producer. You've got about 3 or 4 different counts in your head as you're trying to speak. How did you find that?
Yeah, it was difficult. I didn't want to big you two up too much, but when you before you got in, you obviously realize that, and I've heard the commentary before, and you think it's great, but you don't realize how much goes in behind the scenes and what everyone does, and when you can click the direct and get clips up. And I remember Wardy had asked for a little bit of advice to just look, how can I, for timing, when do I come in, when do I not come in? He says, oh, well, just watch Nas Athers go on this first stint. And I was thinking, I didn't, he was like, one will be the lead, one will be the co-lead. And it was just like, you were just jumping from one to the other. And I was thinking, I've got no chance here. I've got absolutely no chance. I didn't know what I was doing. But it was, like I say, it was fantastic to see behind the scenes how much goes on and how like professional it is. And it was really good, actually. I really enjoyed it.
You did a bit of radio as well. There's obviously a difference. Did you enjoy that gig?
Yeah, so radio is obviously, you've got a set beginning and end with the you let the description sort of go on, and then when the ball finishes, then you can sort of come in. And because I'm a bit of a waffler, that becomes much easier for us to start with, because I can just waffle on. Whereas with you guys, it was picking the right moments to I'll quote, let it breathe, as people kept shouting to me from the back. So when to let it breathe and when to speak.
Now, it's a bit of sad news since the end of that test match. An old teammate of ours, Ned Larkins, Wayne Larkins, great player for Northants and a bit for Durham, actually, at the end of his career, Woody. He sadly passed away. Nash should have been on that 1990 tour of the Caribbean with him.
Yeah. I mean, sad news during the test as well. Obviously, Sid Lawrence passing away, someone we both knew well. And then Wayne Larkins, Ned. My first tour, I did not worry about what Alex Stewart or Angus Fraser or whatever thought, because we were sort of just boys from nowhere. The young lions are going to roar or whatever. And it was all way above me. But what I was worried about was what those senior cricketers that I'd watched play cricket, the likes of Lamb and Wayne Larkins. I mean, I grew up watching Ned bat at Northants, as in Essex used to play him. Gucci loved Ned Larkins. That's why he picked him. He was in that great, Cook, Larkins, Bailey, Willie, Lamb lineup. And Ned could not have, I know this is not about me, but Ned could not have been nicer to me. I roomed with him. And as long as I got him a pack of cigarettes and nicked some of the we were sponsored by Tetley Bitter back then, weren't we? As long as I nicked some Tetley Bitter from the dressing room at the end of play, I was the best roommate for him. And he just talked to me as if I'd played 15 years first-class cricket. He could not have been nicer to a young kid on the block. And I loved rooming and playing with Ned Larkins. He was such a nice man. Really enjoyed it. What about you?
Well, the winter after that was the Ashes, which you weren't picked for, and I was, and that was my first tour. So the winter after your first tour, and Ned was on that. And a bizarre thing was that the 2 smokers on the trip were Ned and Tuffers. And because I have no sense of smell, I was the one who was put to room with Ned and Tuffers all the way through, simply because I couldn't smell them smoking in the room. And Woody, you guys don't know you're born. I'll tell you what happened on that trip. There's obviously pre-mobile phone days. We're talking like, we're in black and white here so long ago.
I've still got
And
black and white up here, so that's the same.
The tour fee for the Ashes of 1990-91 was 20 grand. 20 grand tour fee. And Ned, who used to make the longest phone calls home known to man, he used to usher me out of the room at 7 o'clock at night, and I'd go and sit in the corridor for an hour or more. And he used to be on the phone home to his wife for over an hour. And he spent more than his tour fee on phone calls home. So the hotel phone call in the end cost him more than his tour fee. He was in negative equity by the end of the trip.
Did you ever do the rooming days, Woody, for England? Have you ever roomed with someone for England?
Only on the Lions. When I was full England, it was your own rooms, so it was I mean, I remember even my
I
first
mean,
flight, man. I come on my first flight, and you got obviously Anderson, Cook, and you're in business class. You can stretch your legs, and I'd never been on anything like that. I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. Like where I'd come from, then all of a sudden you've got all this. You're pampered pooches. It was amazing.
Yeah, well, sympathies to Ned's family. He was a wonderful player to watch, a really
yep.
free-scoring, free-flowing player. I like to give it a tap. He'd have gone well, I think, in the Bazball
Yeah, but how would he have
era.
gone against Bumrah? That's the question that we've said all week. How would he have done against Bumrah?
Well, let's touch on Headingley then. I mean, first of all, great test match, great ground. The England team must love playing at Headingley. I was thinking about, that Ashes game where you and Wokesy came back into the team, and the atmosphere around your great spell there, and obviously Stokes in 2019, that Western Terrace. Great place to play Test cricket.
Yeah, and not just England. You can think of West Indies when they knock off the runs there. So it's a ground that produces results and I guess iconic moments for different teams. And I think just the history that's trenched there. I think of big counties around England. Yorkshire would be right up there as the certainly one of the biggest, if not the biggest. So it's sort of the northern bit of Lancashire, Yorkshire history, and then to think that they haven't got a test match, in the Ashes and stuff, it's like I can't believe that. So iconic ground and always produces iconic moments, and I think this week was another one where you think, wow, something special's happened.
No Ashes Test there, Nas.
No, bizarre. I have to say. I mean, we have so many grounds that can have test match cricket, so you do have to spread it around a bit, but you have to reward excellence, and I think they produce an excellent pitch. England like playing there. England do well there. The crowd get behind England. It is a top venue. It goes down to the wire. I could not believe it when I heard that Headingley, and all the history of Headingley, we grew up on Botham and Willis of 81, Stokes of 2019. I've got to add Wokes and Wood in there as well. I mean, I've
Yes,
gone
there it is.
Botham, Willis, Stokes, Wokes and Wood. So it has produced some great history and some great moments. Shea Hope, etc. So I just cannot believe it that they haven't got. It's just wrong, in my opinion, that they haven't got an Ashes Test. They deserve it. You don't just give it for the sake of history. You give it because people deserve it. And I think Leeds and Headingley deserve an Ashes Test.
Start of the game, the toss. Very interesting call from Ben Stokes. We all knew why he did it. The last 6 games all won by the team chasing, a pitch that doesn't deteriorate, a pitch that shows, or statistics show, that it's easier to score runs on fourth innings than first. All those were kind of obvious to everybody, but on a hot sunny day, and most people, I think, would bat in those kind of conditions at Headingley. But Woody, as a bowler, I mean, Ben Stokes has only bowled once in England when he's won the toss, and that was the first Ashes Test at Edgbaston last time around, 2023. So it's obviously a concerted policy, really, to generally bowl first in England and look to score runs on fourth innings. How does it sit with a bowler like yourself? Are you happy for that because you get first crack when it might be doing a little bit?
Honestly, I don't think it matters. I think that's accepted, that's the way that he wants to go. As a team, when he speaks in the morning, if he said, right, we're going to bowl, and I pull a face from him, I'd be like, oh, I'm not sure. That wouldn't go down well with him at all. You've all got to buy into it. If he wants to bowl first, radio skiv, I'll be ready. So that's as far forward as you're going to get. So
and at 440 for 3, if you're pulling a face.
I wasn't surprised. I mean, I know Nasser was pleased in the end, and it took a bit of heat off him, and they stopped talking about the toss and that. But I think I wasn't surprised by it. I think even just the way he is, he's never beaten or he doesn't feel like he's out of the game at any point. So, I mean, you've only got to look at that in his bowling when, that New Zealand test where he pings his hammy, he bowls that 11, 12 over spell, and you think, oh, the series is gone. Why do you keep doing it? Well, that's him. He wants them moments and special bits, and I think, that's the way he wants his team to be, and to, show off and show how good they are and what they can produce. So, I wasn't surprised, and I think it was a telling. England had the worst conditions, really. When you think about it, they went in the bat, it was, cloudy, overcast, it was nipping around, and then you're thinking, oh, is this really gone, the wrong way for Stokes in the toss? But when both teams had batted on it, you sort of got a fair reflection and thought, well, this is going to be a bit of a shootout, isn't it, of who's going to get over. And the game ebbed and flowed, and luckily England came out.
Nas, can that tactic of putting a team in and chasing, I mean, obviously you can put a team in and get wickets, get a hatful of wickets first up, and that's fine. But this policy of kind of, it doesn't matter because we'll get whatever you want on the fourth innings, can that work in Australia? Hot days, pitches that break up a bit more or crack a bit more.
I haven't got a live feed to all 5 future Australian pitches. When I was at Brisbane and I had the pitch right in front of me, I couldn't get it right. I've got to look 3 months into the future and tell you what to do in Australia. So yeah, thanks for that question, Ath. Listen, I mean, Stokes has generally, as you've just said, bowled first, but I don't think if he sees a pitch in India or whatever, as they have done, and they think it's going to turn, he's obviously going to.
Obviously, the subcontinent is different. When he has batted first, they've all been in the subcontinent. I think he's.
Yeah, I don't think he's. I just don't think. My point being is, I don't think he's a stubborn captain. I don't think this is the way we do it. Whatever the situation, he'll read those pitches in Australia and do the right thing. If often with a toss, when it's a sign of a good pitch that it's a 50-50 call, you can bet that he'll go the way he went at Headingley, because he believes in a bowling attack that will back him, as Mark Wood has just said there. And he brought over Anderson, Broad, whatever, who were generally bat first people. Broad, wanted to bat first most of the time. So if you're winning your bowling attack over, but you also know you've got a batting attack that can chase anything. And also, I think the mental side, I did something with Broady on Spider-Cam in the last morning. When you've done it before, when Wood and Wokes and Stokes and all these people have chased down Root and Brooke, have chased down scores in the past, you feel that confidence that you can do it again. So listen, I think he'll make that call at Headingley was a 50-50 call, but history tells you that bowl first, chase, and you win games there. So, and he was proved right in the end. I thought it was quite subtle at the presentation with you. He said something like, it's a good thing Test matches go 5 days. His hint was, don't just look at the pitch on day 1. What's it going to do on day 5? And if you chase down 3-7-1, it must be playing okay, and they must be playing okay in run chases.
And that has a big impact on the opposition. So don't forget that, your expectation is, right, we've got to bowl these guys out 4th innings to win the game. We've got to bowl them out. And then if that doesn't happen, that can have an impact on you as an opposition going into the next game, where, you're under pressure from external media, fans, things like that, where then you think, oh, well, we've got to either put this right, or if that happens again, and all of a sudden a partnership gets going again, you think, oh, not here, not again. And you're under pressure again, you can feel that. So that could have a huge impact on India as well.
And it's quite an interesting stage India at, aren't they? A new captain, obviously, a relatively new coach. They got whitewashed at home by New Zealand. They got beat 3-1 in the Border Gavaskar, so they've lost one here. So that's 7 out of the last 9 that they've lost. I mean, how should they look at? There's 2 ways they can look at that first game, aren't they? They don't panic. They say, well, 9 out of 10 times we win a game like that because we were 430 for 3 first innings. We were plenty on in the second innings. If we don't drop our catches, we win that game. So don't panic. Do the same again. Just do things a little bit better. Get the killer moments right, and we'll be okay. Or you look at it the other way and say, well, that was one of our games that Bumrah played, and we've lost that. If we don't win again, we are 430 for 3 in the first innings. When will we win again? We got 371 on the board, but Jadeja didn't look particularly penetrative at all. And our backup bowling to Bumrah, was put to the sword. So how should they look at it, Nas?
Well, firstly, that was the longest question of all time I've ever heard. You literally ran through the whole game. I heard a lot at the end of that game how India should be pleased. They stayed in the game so well. They got 500s. They played a load of good cricket, almost as if to say, "Oh, well done, lads. That was really good." I look at those games. What hurt me was when we played good cricket. It didn't happen a lot, but when we played good cricket and lost, that hurt me a lot more than the opposition just rolled us. When you play so much good cricket as India did, and then you end up on the losing side. That keeps you up at night. We bossed that game for so long. It could have ended in a draw. I think Shubman Gill said to you at the presentation, we were looking actually to bat on and get 420, 430 and take England out of the game, but they didn't. They lost 7 for 41 and 6 for 31, and they kept dropping catches. And that is a real concern for me, because you're right. They probably used up one of their trump card games in Bumrah. They may not go on. Rishabh Pant may not. He may, but he's not going to get 200s in a game every other test match. So they played a lot of good cricket and lost. Their issue, Ath, and I don't know what they do about it, is the balance of their side. You wanted them to play Kuldeep. Edgbaston, with all this hot weather, may spin. It can get dry. How do you get Kuldeep in, but still keep two really good seamers, not just a part-time seamer, real frontline seamers, and keep all your batting? Having collapsed twice, you don't want to be weakening your tail. So they got some issues.
They have. They've got a decision to make over Bumrah, first of all, because every player from overseas wants to play in the Lord's Test, don't they?
He's going to play them too, I'm telling you. I think he'll play them both.
He's got to play Edgbaston. He's got to play the next game.
He's got to, because they cannot afford to go 2-0 down, so you want your best bowler. And there's
then
no way he's
Lord's
going to say, I'll not play at Lord's.
3 days afterwards.
There's no way he's saying, I'm not playing at Lord's. I don't think. I think he'll want to play both games. Because even if let's just say India win the next one and it's 1-1, I still think they'll want him to make that, to make the difference, to get them ahead. Or I can't see him.
I think in
every overseas bowler wants to get on that board, and he'll be the same.
In cricketing terms, he should play certainly Edgbaston, and I'd think very carefully about Old Trafford, because that's the kind of ground where pace and reverse swing is really important. But as you say, every cricketer wants to play at Lord's and get on that honours board. So, and I do think they should play Kuldeep Yadav. I think had they had Kuldeep in their team, they'd have won that game on the fourth innings.
I know we're going to get on to Jofra soon, Woody. England have just named their side. Can you've come back from injury? Can you play 3 on the bounce? You're saying he'll play Edgbaston and Lords, having come back from a long injury as a fast bowler. I mean, his wickets fell away in that first test. I'm not saying his bowling did, but his wickets did. So do you think he can play 3 on the bounce, Bumrah?
Yeah, I think you can. I'm not saying that, he might have to have bits where the captain bowls him less spells, or, he was often brought back for maybe like 1 or 2 overs just before lunch, wasn't he, or tea, or so it might have to be the user more as a strike bowler and not, longer spells. But I think he could do that. For someone like myself, that third game's always been the one that's been a bit like, can I keep going with that spell and keep that pace up there? But he's got so much skill and natural ability to be able to handle it. I think he'd be fine. And as someone like myself or Jofra, I think you'd have to be a little bit more cautious on that potentially. But I agree with Athers. I cannot see him not wanting to play the Lord's Test. Like I think he's definitely play Edgbaston, and then I think he'll want to play. I mean, it depends if the ball last at Edgbaston, then there's maybe a different conversation. But if they bat last, it might be a case of, right, he's had the extra day off. He might be all right, see how the medics see he is and how he feels. Because, a lot of the time, there's this thing about, how do you feel as a decision? But they will come to the bowler himself. And 9 times out of 10, you say, I'm fine. But there's a bit more to it than that. Like, you've got the medics and, other people. I might have said something to, one of the background staff and said, I'm a bit stiff. And you find out all of a sudden that gets round to the physio, who then is telling. So you've got to be careful who you might say something to.
Chinese whispers. A bit stiff means a broken leg or something by the end.
Exactly.
And let's talk about Jofra then. First of all, it is a great bit of news that he's back. It's been a carefully mapped out return from him after a litany of bad injuries to elbow and back and various other freak injuries as well. So the good news, first of all, is that he's back, and that's great in terms of England's fast bowling stocks, Woody.
Yeah, huge asset for England, obviously, as well as not just being the name, like a big name, Jofra Archer, and that, adds, I guess, more fear in oppositions and things like that. But also, he's someone that can bowl quickly, offers something different, and, historically, has produced the goods in big moments. So, great to have him back. But on the subject of it, I think it's also to balance the argument, you've got to say nobody, even myself, and we're talking about the 5th test, nobody just walks back in. You've got to earn that spot. And, the lads that are in the team, if someone is left out, then, they would be disappointed, and you could see why. So I think it's not an easy decision of who you would go with and who you wouldn't go with. I think it's great to have him, like you say, amongst that pack, and then you can choose when he plays from that pack. But I don't think anyone just necessarily just walks into teams. I think it's got to be a balanced, argument of when. And I think sometimes as well, when you have an asset like that, you want to just throw him in, don't you? Like as a coaching group, you'd want to be like, oh, we want him in this team, but got to be careful with the lads that have played and done well as well. So it's got to balance it up right, really.
Breaking news as we speak. England publicly just announced that England are unchanged for this test match at Edgbaston, and that Jofra won't be released to play for Sussex. There was a bit of debate that if he didn't play, he could have gone off and bowled in the second innings with a Kookaburra ball on a flat one at Hove. But they've decided against that. So what do you think of that? And what do you think of him then not playing at Sussex this week? And he could have played 3 games, possibly 3 games in a row if he plays at Lord's.
It always seems sense to me that he would play in the 3rd test rather than the 2nd, because we've just had, an 8-day break, or there will be an 8-day break between the end of the 1st test match and the 2nd. So that's enough time for that attack to rest and recuperate and come to Edgbaston all ready to go again. And I couldn't see who he would come in for, because all of them kind of did their bit, really. I thought Carse was England's best. Just think of the 3 specialist seamers, Carse, Tong and Wokes. Thought Carse was the best, and got out, I think, 4 wickets in the game, but all were top order wickets. Tong kind of mopped up the tail on both accounts, both innings, and that was a big part of the win. Wokes got better through the game, only picked up 1 wicket, but generally does get better with overs under his belt. Scored vital runs. They like him at 8, and they like a complementary attack, don't they? You wouldn't play Archer, Tong and Carse all together, because you need somebody there to bowl some longer spells who can pitch it up and swing it. So, and then there's only 3 days before Lord's. So it seemed to me the obvious thing was to play an unchanged team here. And then when it needs freshening up, maybe Atkinson will be fit as well for Lord's. That's when you freshen up the team.
What about the option of playing him in the county championship game, Woody? I mean, what mentally, just coming back from injury, playing or bowling into a mitt, bowling in the nets, how do you balance that? You'd want to play, wouldn't you? But that would mean 3, and we've just touched on it with Bumrah. That would mean, again, 2 for Sussex and possibly at Lord's, going into your comeback game after 4 years away from the England test side. Your comeback game is the 3rd in 3 weeks. Would that have been right?
When you put it like that, I think you're probably right. That's why your captain now wasn't. But I think, him being, 3 on the trot, I think, yeah, that does seem like maybe a risk. But I just know from my point of view, like, you get bored of bowling in the nets all the time when you've done that for so long, and you're just like bowling to a stump and there's no batter there, and you're picking the balls up, and then you walk back, and then you're doing the same again, and you're almost just like ticking balls off to see on a computer that you've getting through enough overs that your body that can then play a test match. Well, there's nothing like playing. So, if they could have, wangled it in any way where you could just play 1 innings, or, you could only bowl 10 overs max, that might have been better. But, maybe just being around the group again, because the test match group is a different feel to the white ball group. There is a different, I know it's now, captains and coaches have changed and stuff, but it is a slightly different feel. So maybe just even having him around the group for that week will benefit him going the 3rd game.
Do we need to manage our expectations as well? I mean, there's an assumption. It's 4 years since Jofra played Test cricket, 4 years since he played a first-class game before that last one. I think there's an assumption from many that he'll just come back as good as before. That's not a given, is it? He's 30 now. He's had a lot of injuries. Given that, lack of red ball first-class cricket in that time, I mean, is it a fair assumption that he'll come back as good as before, or do we just kind of have to manage our expectations a little bit? Of course, 90% Jofra Archer is probably still better than 100% of other people, but will he be as good as before? Can he be as good as before?
Is that me?
You're asking
Either of you? Well, somebody. You can just sit there
It's
if
the
you
long
want, but
questions
it is a
again, Nas.
podcast.
I get distracted. It was a long question again. My head's all over the place.
Well, I mean, it's a question on fast bowling, so it's either me or you, Woody. So
All right, I'll take this one then. Yeah, I think you've got to manage your expectations with him. Obviously, not build this up too bad, and then if it doesn't go quite right. But he will have a freshness about him, so I can see that first game. I think his speeds will be up, and I think he will bowl well that first game because it's that adrenaline rush where you get that surge of like nervous energy where you want to do well again. So I think he will take wickets. I think he'll bowl high speed. I think the question mark down the line is, can he maintain those speeds and be consistent and play more games, and then that leads in Australia with right, we've got confidence in that he knows he can do it, we know he can do it, and then he's available for selection there. But yeah, I would say you've got to manage your expectations a little bit and not let it get too far ahead of itself early.
And a question for you, Nas, then, because Rob Key implied, I think, in a media appearance he did the other day, that they're going to learn some lessons how they use him from perhaps that tour of New Zealand in that game in Mount Maunganui where he bowled 42 overs, I think it was.
yeah, you don't even have to ask me. You have to go back to another great fast bowler who was well ahead of the curve with that one in Mikey Holding when he was still with us at Sky. Mikey was constantly at the back of the box, sort of shaking his head when Joff was coming in for yet another long spell. And I think, even Joff said, don't worry, I can do this. I can do this. But Mikey was just, if anyone knew about fast bowling, it was Michael Holding and how you have to look after fast bowlers. But they are worth persevering with. And in answer to your previous question, I think Woody got it spot on this week. I read Woody a quote where he said that you have to be worth your place in the team. You have to be fit. You have to be bowling fast. And they're all givens. It's not, you don't just walk back into the side because you're Mark Wood or Jofra Archer. But I do think you have to be a little bit, give Mark Wood and Jofra Archer a little bit more because they can give you something that other England bowlers can't. So, and then it's up to these two great fast bowlers to show that they still got it. And when Woody was on with us last time, is a question I posed to him was the one thing with Woody, however long his injury layoffs have been, and he comes back and he's still bowling rockets, whereas others have to ease into it. And that will be the interesting thing with Joff, whether he'll have to ease into it, whereas Woody just came back bowling rockets throughout.
What about the batting at Headingley? We've touched on the bowling there. I mean, there were some fantastic performances, weren't they? 100 for Ollie Pope under a bit of scrutiny and pressure. 99 for Harry Brook. You've got to be a good player to get 99 in a test at Headingley. And obviously a brilliant 100 from Ben Duckett. And I thought Zach Crawley played beautifully, actually, as well on that final day. And all of a sudden, England, when you certainly compare it to Australia's batting lineup right now, that top seven for England starting to look very solid and settled.
It is. I mean, obviously, it's not a like for like comparison. The pitch in Barbados didn't look a great pitch, especially against the new ball, and the pitch at Lords to start with did a bit, and the Australian top order looked vulnerable, and Headingley was flat and a very quick outfield, but they looked in good nick. Pope came in, I didn't think he was skittish or frenetic at all, considering the conditions. As Woody said, England had really tough conditions that evening when the cloud came up over and the humidity and the lights were on and Bumrah was steaming in. He bowled that Jaffa to Zach Crawley and got him out. I thought he looked pretty calm and composed. Zach Crawley played beautifully second time round. Harry Brook is just a magnificent player. I thought even Stokes, who didn't get a big score, but he looked compact and composed. His technique's gone back to where it was a few years ago. I think he's a vital part of the batting lineup if they are going to win in Australia. And Duckett, I don't know if you are doing something with him tomorrow, Ather. I heard you were going to be doing something in build-up for the next test match, but the old school opener, Michael Atherton, the new kid on the block, Ben Duckett. When he first came in, I sort of didn't question it. I sort of in my mind, against the Duke's ball in England, with the quality of fast bowling there is out there now, can you get runs at the top of the order opening without leaving the ball outside your off stump? And he has answered that question. He did leave first two deliveries, I think, in the second innings, but he is just unbelievably brilliant at the top of that order.
Woody, how difficult do you find bowling at Ben Duckett in the nets? Because, I mean, he's picking off length in a way that other batters are unable to do, just because he's kind of so short and sits there, and anything just that other people might be propping half forward to, he's cutting and not knocking it off his hip.
Yeah, he's honestly really difficult. Someone that you think that maybe middle stump is the place to land it and try and go across him, but if it doesn't do anything, he clips it through the leg side. But then your margin then to the offside is even less. So it's quite difficult in trying to adjust yourself to bowl him even over and around. You might remember, I don't know if we were talking about it off air, but Bumrah got him the same way around the wicket in Hyderabad, and that's how. So maybe they've seen something in him there, but I know that Ducky's not phased, or he doesn't seem phased by anything. He just stays in his own little bubble, and he messes up length because you've got Crawley, who's obviously 9'6", and he just stands on top of the bounce, and then this little 3-foot fella stands at his crease and just crabs it everywhere and knocks it around. So as a bowler, now you kind of get your length right, and and we're not leaving many. Sometimes I know as a fast bowler, when you can get one to tram through the wicketkeeper and you think, I'm on it today, and as a lever, you feel on top of the batter. He never lets you feel like that. You feel like if you miss here, he's gonna punish you, and that's often what happens.
And I was interested to listen to the both of them, actually, Crawley and Duckett, after the game, because in various interviews they talked about playing the percentages a bit more. Duckett said he recognised that Bumrah was the threat, and he was happy to see him off and then attack the others. Now, to me, that is smart cricket. And somebody described that last day performance as Bazball with brains, which I quite like. Not attacking what had gone before, but I thought it was a tremendously intelligent chase, the way that they paced it.
Yeah, I didn't see any kind of Bazballness to that at all. I thought they played incredibly well, but still knocked them off with ease, really, in the end. The last bit was not as tense as Wood and Wokes or Stokes and Leach or whatever. There was no doubt after a while that they were going to knock that off, really. I thought they were incredibly smart, and England have reined it in a couple of times now. Last summer, Joe Root got all those runs. You didn't see too many scoops or reverse scoops. Maybe when he got to 120, he played the odd one. And already this summer, we've seen both at Trent Bridge against Zimbabwe and the other day in both innings, them been incredibly smart. So fair play to him. What's he like as a lad, Ducky? I don't know. He said a couple of things in press conferences that have wound people up. But what's he like in the dressing room as a lad? He seems to get on with Zach, which is obviously very important.
Yeah, them two get on really well. I think often, it's like on tour, you try to find things to do. And Ducky's very much in the card school. He's amongst all the lads. He's right in the mixer all the time. So he's a great team man, very, very popular. And yeah, I think he suits the sort of McCullum style of, like, he's very laid back, relaxed, great perspective on things. So as a lad, you want him to do really well. He's a good team man.
I didn't expect you to say he's an ordinary bloke, but
Yeah, that would have gone down well, wouldn't it? I was just waiting for Athers to say that he targeted Dooley in his game. That's what I was waiting for there. And we're targeting balls. I was thinking, here we go. And I was going to say, I took Dool down again, and this is how I played.
Edgbaston it is then. A couple of minutes on what's to come. And again, a bit like Headingley, a ground that England players must love playing at when that Holly's stand is cracking on mid-afternoon when a few beers have gone down. It must be a fantastic atmosphere there.
Yeah, they're the best two, I think, Headingley and Edgbaston for atmosphere, especially the Hollies when that's going. Every player, you might, the TV answer is, no, we're focused on the game, but then when you hear them going, it's like, wow, this is awesome. It's great to play amongst, and like it gives you that extra boost and that. So I think they'll be in full voice again. It'll be great for England to go there, and generally got a pretty good record there.
And what do you expect, Nas? I mean, we talked a little bit about, we know what England's team is. It's unchanged. We talked a bit about India, but the pressure just starting to grow on Gautam Gambhir as the new coach.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, you got to be a good player to get runs at Edgbaston, by the way. So, while we're all bigging each other up, I thought I'd just throw that one in.
We have to roll that out of the archives. Oh my God.
Yeah, because of what you've just said, not because they went 1-0 down. They played good cricket, as we've spoken about, but because of their recent record. They've won, as you said, 1 in 9 test matches. And and there is a bit of pressure growing, but they are a very talented side. They just need to get, I think the team they announce, I think there'll be a few changes to try and get the balance of their side right. In modern Test match cricket, we played in an era, Af, where you'd have 4 number 11s coming in down the order. Nowadays, you look at England's side, and I look at those lineups, and you go Wokes and Carson. If Mark Wood ever comes back, Mark Wood, he can get some runs down there or whatever. I had Tufnell, Giddins, Mullally, Caddick, you need runs in that lower middle order. If Punt is going to bat at 5, and then after him, you're going to need some runs. So if they can get some runs down the order, they are in this series, but they cannot afford collapses like they've had.
Are you with us this week, Woody, or has your one commentary stint seen the back of you?
Yeah, I think swearing once has ended me. I think that was it. I was super unprofessional. It's cast me off. No, I'm not around this week. I've like I say, I'm upping my rehab a little bit this week, hoping to be around for the Lord's game, around the group a little bit more. So, yeah, a quiet week at home, bowling into a net by myself again. Be real fun.
Pretty or can be soul destroying, but I hope that goes well, and we see you around at Lord's. That'll be a great week to be around. Notice Moeen Ali was around the team at Edgbaston today for a bit of coaching support. Local lad, of course. Nas, I'll catch up with you the night before. You've got an earner, but I'm helping out our old mate, late mate Bob. There's a Bob Willis evening for prostate cancer the night before, so I'll be at that, and we will convene Wednesday morning, bright and early, at Edgbaston for hopefully another great Test match.